October the 4th, 1957, the first satellite, Sputnik 1, was launched into space.
И вывела на орбиту спутник Земли.
Although it burned up in the atmosphere 3 months later, many satellites launched since then have not, leaving us with a virtual junkyard orbiting the Earth. Now, those debris represent a real threat to the television, communications, and GPS satellites, not to mention the astronauts. But luckily, the Swiss have a plan to clean up space, so I've come to Lausanne to figure out how they're going to do it. Most of the space junk orbiting Earth is within 2,000 kilometers of the Earth's surface. There are over 22,000 objects larger than this softball and over 500,000 larger than this marble. Now, all of the orbiting debris is going about 7 to 8 kilometers per second. But since the objects are moving relative to one another, the average speed of a collision is about 10 kilometers per second. And an object this size, going 10 kilometers per second, has about the same impact as a mid-sized car going nearly 200 kilometers per hour. That's enough force to destroy any satellite in orbit. As a veteran of 4 space flights, Swiss astronaut Claude Nicollier knows the dangers firsthand.
All of the large debris are tracked by radar. We know their orbit exactly, and sometimes we had to do a small change in the orbital characteristics of our spaceship, the Space Shuttle, because it was foreseen that next day or 2 days later we're going to have a close approach with the debris, such that NASA was not feeling too good about that, and we changed a little bit our orbit so as to make that distance a little bit larger.
Fortunately, to date, there haven't been any serious collisions with manned spacecraft. But in 2009, a single crash between 2 satellites added a whopping 2,000 new pieces of debris.
If we don't do anything, space will become soon inaccessible because of the large amount of debris and the high risk of collision.
So the Swiss, determined to do something about the problem, are extending their clean country reputation into outer space.
The Swiss Space Center has launched a program called Clean Space One that is a demonstrator of a capability to remove debris. And the idea is to go and remove one of 2 satellites from Switzerland.
One of these 2 satellites is appropriately named SwissCube.
SwissCube is a small satellite which you see, this is a 1-to-1 model. So this is in the right scale. It belongs to Switzerland. So we had to do something about this.
You can't have Swiss junk just floating around in space.
No, that's not acceptable.
So the mission for Clean Space One is a proof of concept that a janitor satellite can be sent into space to grab a piece of space junk, in this case SwissCube, and bring it back into the atmosphere where it'll burn up. But to rendezvous with the space junk, the small janitor needs an incredibly efficient engine. Working on the challenge is Professor Herbert Shea, an expert in micromechanics.
This is your propulsion
This is our propulsion system. Little silicon micro machine chips. We use something called electric propulsion, which allows you to emit single atoms that are electrically charged, and you use an electric field to accelerate them out. So you're not burning them, you're emitting your propellant. And that's what many small satellites use, but nothing has been, to date, been able to make something this small. So we do 0 to 60 miles an hour in about 3 days. But laughable as it indeed seems to all of us, because there's no friction in space, or negligible friction, then if we wait 6 months, we have a huge change in speed. And that's how the mission will be done.
Once propelled into the correct orbit, the next challenge is to grab the space junk, an object tumbling around uncontrollably without creating more debris.
Our idea is to use a very compliant system. Kind of think of an octopus arm. An octopus arm is very soft, but it can grab any strange shape and wrap around it and hold it. And we'll have a grabber that looks in a very, the real one will be more sophisticated, but it looks like this. So it's basically very, very soft elastomer. I'll turn it on in a minute. You can see how soft it is. And the idea is this will be rolled up, so it doesn't take up much room. You get into, and we'll have 10 of these in a series. You get into space, you unroll it, and then these things can open when you turn the voltage on. You're able to open this, and you turn the voltage off, and it wraps around, and it holds the satellite.
Is this going to be a little bit like those games where you're trying to pick up a stuffed toy in the arcade and drop it somewhere? Is it going to be like that?
Essentially, yes.
Those games can be incredibly frustrating with those little arms.
They're built to be frustrating.
Whereas this is built to be...
This is built to succeed.
Can I ask, has anyone ever successfully gone up and grabbed a piece of space junk and gotten rid of it?
To my knowledge, no. It's never been done before.
It grabs on.
Ambitious as it may sound, the Swiss know how vast this junkyard is, so their ultimate aims are more modest.
Hopefully, starting in, say, 2020, to do a systematic removal of the large debris at the rate of 5 or more per year in order to contain the increase of the debris density in low Earth orbit. Then, space will continue becoming accessible. Of course, the exposure to the space environment is a wonderful thing.